Hello, everybody. Welcome back to How Come? Ooh, I'm so excited. This episode is all about open relationships. Any non-monogamy, polyamory question that you have, it is here. I know it took a little while and we were off last week, and I'm sorry I was gone, but look, I made you some content. Mommy made you your favorite. Open your ears wide. Here comes the content. We made something special for you guys. No, seriously though, I'm so excited for this episode. Today's main guest is Casey Tanner, creator of the IG account Queer Sex Therapy. She's also CEO of the Expansive Group. Casey has been featured in Cosmo, Health, Women's Magazine, Oprah, and more, and is best known for expanding the way folks think about gender, sexuality, and relationships. We are also talking to our friend Khalid Rahmaan, who you know from the episode Effin' Up Sex. This time he is back solo. He is back solo poly. And yeah, he has just started in the last year having open relationships, ethically non-monogamous relationships, and we are having a little catch up with Khalid. We are doing things a little backwards. His is the congrats this week. We're going to have that after Casey's part, because in Casey's part, we really explain a lot of things for people who are unfamiliar with this concept to begin with, and then we'll jump into Khalid's. If you have not seen You Season 3 and you are planning to, maybe skip the first half or like binge it before you listen, because there are spoilers. Thanks to Foria for supporting How Come. Foria designs all natural sexual intimacy products for women, people with vulvas, and the people who love them. Get 20% off your first order at foriawellness.com/howcome or use promo code HOWCOME at checkout. Thanks to BetterHelp for supporting How Come. For 10% off your first month, go to betterhelp.com/howcome and start living a better life today. So first we're going to hear from Casey, and then we're going to talk to Khalid and catch up with a K. So excited for you to hear this episode. You're going to love it.
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help, 'cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
Welcome, Casey Tanner.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. We have been asked to do an open relationship episode by so many people for such a long time. And I feel like you are a great expert to talk to about this.
You know, I will accept the word expert on a lot of topics. This one, because it's something that I personally am navigating with, you know, a lot of questions. I feel like I'm not ready to embrace the word expert around this, but definitely I've got a lot of book knowledge that I still personally am working to apply.
Yeah. Are you in one?
I'm in, I think, a great example of an open relationship in the sense that it opens and then it closes and it opens and it closes. We're currently closed,
cool, but
talking about reopening it. So I'm sort of like been thinking about it a lot, but not currently. We're not currently open.
I love that. Honestly, I did not know that was an option.
I don't think I did either until it just sort of became the necessity of our relationship. But yeah, definitely an option.
It's so funny because I like, as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm like, everything's an option. You know that, right? Like you run this podcast and I'm like,
Well, your job is probably like mine in that you give a lot of great advice that you don't take.
Exactly.
And you know, that's how it goes.
Exactly. All the time. Yeah. And you mentioned that you are currently in a closed relationship, but your relationship has been open before.
Yeah, it's been open before. It will be open again. We sort of mold our level of openness to what's going on between the two of us. And if there are times that we feel like we need to refocus attention inward, we'll turn off the open part.
That's so cool.
Sounds simple, less simple in practice.
Yeah, no, obviously it requires more conversations than just like, hey, time to be open again.
Right.
But I think a lot of people have been thinking about open relationships like for a while. And now, I don't know if you just watched the most recent season of You. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I knew that was coming.
I mean, does that not deter everyone from trying that? It feels like it's the message is you will get murdered or you will end up murdering someone.
See, before they even tried the swinging night, which I wouldn't even call that an open relationship. I I would be like, that's having sex with another couple. That's like a very specific.
Technically it's under the umbrella, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I don't know. I picture open as like, okay, you guys are in a committed relationship, but if you're out there in the world and somebody like strikes your fancy and you are allowed to do it, you have either like a one night something or like maybe a few night somethings or whatever. But like theirs, I was like, okay, this is like a very specific situation. Cause like when you're hooking up with a couple, it's like,
you sound like you're speaking from experience.
I'm not. Okay. I'm not at all. I know other people who hooked up with couples, but it's like a package deal. Whereas I've always pictured what I would want in an open relationship if I had one, that it would be more of like a solo endeavor.
Okay. Yeah. I think compared to some open relationships, I totally see how that still feels like, the package deal, it's more closed. But then you ask a really monogamous couple if they would ever consider swinging, and it's still so taboo. And it's that's something only someone in an open relationship would do. So I think it sort of depends who you ask, where they're coming from.
Totally. But it's like, there's definitely something different to me about your partner being in the room.
Oh, 100%.
It's not like
totally
you're like being flirted with at a bar and then you're like, okay, let's go home. It's like, okay, this is my boyfriend too. Do you want to go with us? Because it's a package deal.
Well, do you debrief it together because you were both there, or are you coming home with this set of experiences that your partner just wasn't there for?
Right.
That's a huge difference.
I don't see, and I've never done an open relationship, and I don't even know if I could be the type to do one. But with the you thing, before they even tried with the other couple, I kept watching the show being like, I feel like an open relationship could solve a lot of their problems.
Yeah.
Like, he just wants to fuck Marianne.
Right.
And she just wants to fuck the teenager.
Doesn't he sort of realize that, he's like, I think this could solve our problem, but I have to do her version of the open relationship before I can ask for my version of it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like this manipulative way into it for them.
Yeah, no, he tries to do it with like brain gymnastics, which is probably not the way to do an open relationship. It's supposed to be like, hey, like express the feelings that you actually have.
Right.
Not be like, hey, let's fuck this couple I don't want to fuck so that I can fuck somebody else. Sorry, guys, spoiler alert if you haven't finished season 3.
Yeah, spoiler alert, episode 5, I think. I don't know.
But so you do therapy. Do a lot of people come in asking for open relationship advice?
Oh, yeah.
Is that something that has increased in the last few years?
Yeah, I think when you get like a really mature couple, they come to therapy before they open their relationship, and they want to make sure that they're really thoughtful along the way. And then you get couples, and it's not to say that they're any less mature. It's great to get help at any point, but folks who have tried it and found themselves floundering and really needing that extra support, or maybe even coming in to do some repair work around an opening that didn't go well. Sometimes it's folks who are polyamorous, and perhaps one person is going through a breakup with another partner and grieving that. And for the primary couple, that's been bringing up stuff that's new.
I hadn't even thought of that, when somebody else is going through a breakup in your relationship and like having to support them through that.
Yeah. Witnessing the grief, it's complicated, very complicated. So really at any stage of a relationship, somebody might choose to come to therapy.
Totally. Was the relationship that you're in now, was that the first time you were ever open?
It was.
Cool.
Yes. It was my first open relationship. And we started out, we didn't do swinging. We started out actually by accident. We were at a restaurant and we had this waitress that we thought was sort of hitting on us. And then when she brought us the bill, she had left her phone number on it and said, like, you guys are really hot or something.
Hot.
And we ended up hanging out with her afterwards. That was my ideal.
That's
step
amazing.
Into non-monogamy.
Yeah. I feel like we always see like the couple being like, we like your vibe to one person, but it's way hotter when it's one person being like, I like this package.
Totally. Yeah. There is something different about that. And I also think like I'm navigating non-monogamy in a partnership with 2 women. That's also really different. I feel like it's perceived as less predatory.
Definitely.
Than, the sort of stereotypical straight couple looking for a unicorn vibe.
Totally. Yeah. There was a companion who asked us, because she wanted to find a couple. And I was like, go on Field or whatever, like go to a bar, maybe somebody will dig your vibe, as a joke, I said. But she was like, no, that feels like fucking weird. because I'd rather just be like having a conversation with somebody and like it's implied that they like my vibe.
Like there's enough chemistry that you can just tell.
Yeah.
Well, I think we would, I mean, non-monogamous or not, I think we would all like that when it comes to dating, but
exactly.
That feels almost impossible in 2021.
But if somebody like came over to a single person and were like, hey, I like your vibe, like that would also be a weird way to start a conversation.
You know, it depends who if they're really hot and suave, maybe they could make it work. But yeah, 8 times out of 10, that's going to be really, really weird.
Yeah. Like just start it like a normal conversation. So how did you guys like bring up the idea of being open initially? How long were you together?
Yeah. I think we had probably talked about it in one of our first few dates. We probably talked about the idea of non-monogamy. I feel like especially in the queer world, it's a topic that comes up a little bit earlier since there's more alignment between the queer non-monogamous community. But we were close for the first like 6 months of our relationship. And then I think one day we created a Tinder profile together because we just thought it would be fun. And at that point, we weren't sure we were ever going to want to meet somebody in person. But we wanted to know what it would be like to talk to one person as 2 people.
I love that. And flirt.
Yeah. And to see what type of people were interested in us. We weren't sure what type of fish we'd reel in, but
do you guys have similar types?
Yeah, that is a challenge. We have a Venn diagram of types, and then we try to sort of live in that overlap.
Find the person in the vagina.
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
It's a vagina diagram. Let's be honest. If you ask me or Georgia O'Keeffe, it's a vagina.
How is this the first time anyone's pointed that? I use Venn diagrams all over my Instagram. No one's ever called me on that. Okay.
You're not horny enough.
Clearly not.
That's all I can see it as.
My mind is not enough in the gutter. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you said that non-monogamy and the queer community overlap more than with hetero couples. Why do you think that is?
You know, I think when you've already just by nature broken one of society's biggest rules, it's a little bit easier to break the other ones. I think that goes with things like the way we express ourselves. I think there's more alignment between the queer community and the kinky BDSM community. I think like once you cross one of those barriers and you realize how empowering and freeing it is, I think there's just more willingness.
Yeah. I think there's also like, I know from experience that times that I've told men that I'm bisexual, the response is, great, more for me. And that never,
What does that even mean?
It means that they think
you're going to bring women in for them?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's so.
Nobody I've dated, by the way, has said this, but I'm just saying men out in the wild.
Oh, totally.
And I think that is complicated because you're not really giving the queer relationship the same respect that you would if they were bringing a man into the bedroom or something like that.
Well, it automatically sexualizes that part of you, right?
Yeah.
In that moment, they're not imagining that you have emotional, romantic, holistic interest in women. They're immediately thinking about, the girl and girl porn that they watch.
Totally. Yeah. And that's not going to make it fun for the new person or the person in the relationship.
Right. Well, right. I mean, it's siloing your identity to this one particular thing. And that never makes anyone feel seen.
So I know how you guys brought it up. How would you recommend people who are, let's say, they're in a solid place, because we know from you that you have to be in a solid place to open it up?
Most of the time, I would say, that's not a hard and fast rule, but most of the time.
Okay. Wait, let's backtrack then. When is it safe to open it up if you're not in a solid place?
Well, what if the relationship is not working because it's monogamous? Then you're in a catch-22 where you're not allowed to open until it works in a monogamous way. Like I think some people do just realize, I think that our problem is monogamy. And in that case, open it up, try it, test your hypothesis.
There's like a whole explained episode on monogamy and how it's not really natural to us.
Interesting.
Which I always did find really interesting, because it's like, has everybody just been suffering? And for what?
For the government.
For the government, or like to know that your baby's your baby. Like before DNA.
Right.
But yeah, how would you advise people to bring it up if they're like feeling like it might be helpful for them to be open?
Yeah. I think if you're wanting to initially feel out how your partner would react to it, there are ways, like for example, in the media many of us consume today, for example, non-monogamy comes up. That's a great way to feel out without having the direct conversation yet. Like, what's your partner's orientation to this topic? Is it totally new for them? Do they have an extreme reaction in either direction? I think that can sort of give you a temperature check. But at the end of the day, if it's something you want to bring up with your partner, there's no way around just actually saying the words like, I want to talk about the possibility of opening our relationship. And people tiptoe around it because they don't want to hurt their partner's feelings. And I think what's so much more helpful is to accept that you might, and very well probably will, bring up feelings for your partner. And whether they'll be positive, negative, trauma-related, attachment stuff, who knows? But the sooner you can accept that it will bring up feelings, and to just prepare to hold space for them instead of trying to avoid your partner having any kind of reaction, the better off you'll be in initiating the conversation.
Yeah. I do remember we had someone on, Evian Whitney, and they said that it took like 3 years of conversations to get to open.
Evian Whitney is so amazing.
I feel like even being willing to take that time and that like slowness and be like, I still value our relationship enough to do this instead of just ending it, because that's what you could do too. If you really just wanted to hook up with other people, date other people, you could be like, let's break up.
Well, yeah, I think what they're talking about is removing some of the urgency around it. Like if it feels to your partner like you're saying, we need to open right this minute or this relationship is over, that's never going to be a secure base to open a relationship from. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not valid to feel a sense of urgency because monogamy isn't working for you, but just being mindful of how you're presenting that is so important.
And when you guys do close up again, why has that been?
Yeah, so the most recent time is because we moved to New York City like 2 months ago, and there was so much change going on in our relationship. She was starting a new job. I was adapting to living here. And I think, and we were meeting so many new people, and there was something about taking off the table the people we were meeting becoming more than friends that I think was allowed us to navigate building friendships in a way that felt safer for us. We were both just meeting like tons and tons of people. And I think we said, okay, our open relationship is a variable that we could actually keep stable while all of these other variables are changing.
Yeah.
So for the sake of stability, let's have a sort of like a temporary lull in that. But there have been different reasons for different times. One of us feels like we're on the verge of crossing a boundary and we feel like we need to sort of back out of it to protect the relationship. Different reasons at different times.
What are some of the boundaries that you guys don't want to cross?
Well, that's something we're talking about all the time. But I think one difference in non-monogamy that we're navigating is that she is much more interested in casual non-monogamy, and I'm much more interested in developing more emotional, romantic connections. And it sometimes feels like once I get too far down the line, then we're doing two completely different things, and we need to sort of back out of it and reset. So our different styles sometimes come up as a reason why we'll back out of it.
And I noticed you use non-monogamy. Do you prefer that over open relationship?
Okay, so I say non-monogamy because it's sort of the umbrella term for any relationship that isn't purely monogamous. But open relationships are a kind of non-monogamy, typically referring to relationships with a primary partnership where both people might like go out and have other experiences casually with other people. But obviously there's polyamory and there's solo polyamory. There's so many different kinds. So I tend towards the more general term.
I feel like, I don't know about you, but you said that you like to have more of an emotional connection, and that feels like a bit more polyamorous to me, or at least like demisexual.
Yeah, different people will say different things because on one hand, it's very possible to have casual sex with someone you're emotionally attracted to, having sex with a friend, right? Somebody you're emotionally attracted to. I think once there's friendship, an ongoing situation, and then you add romance to it, at that point, that starts to be polyamory. It's hard to untangle that from a relationship.
Mm-hmm. And in any of the times that you guys have been doing a non-monogamous relationship, have you ever fallen in love with someone else?
No, not. I've fallen into infatuation for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. The new relationship energy was, super real. But I at least the way that I conceptualize love, which for me comes with time, I never engaged in an outside relationship long enough to develop that.
Mm-hmm. Do you tell each other about what's going on? Like, is that something?
This is another hot button topic for us. So we have done a don't ask, don't tell version of this. Mm-hmm. And we've also done a total transparency version of this, and those different things come with different pros and cons. But when we have been totally 100% transparent, it's been harder. It's harder for me, I think, to have more information. And maybe that says something about ways in which I still have work to do, but it's just harder for me.
I think it's a fair thing to just be like, it's harder for me.
Yeah, it's harder for me.
While we're talking about working on ourselves, though, and some people might want to work on themselves towards being in a non-monogamous relationship or just working on themselves, I just kind of wanted to jump in and talk about my little self-help journey. I have been really focusing on my mental health recently, and I'm so proud of myself. And I just wanted to tell you guys that I have stopped smoking during the day. I do the Jordan Fisher method now, what both of my college roommates did, which is I only smoke during dark hours, which, yes, the clocks are rolling back. So yes, it is going to be easier for me, but that is something I've been working on for myself. And I just wanted to give myself a little pat on the back because I am quite proud of it. And I am feeling so much better. I had been feeling really, really low. I don't know if you guys could hear it in my voice, but yeah, I had been feeling really bad and I was wondering why. And I was having a lot of conversations and I was avoiding therapy because like I've had therapists tell me before, like, weed is not seemingly great for you, or the amount that I smoke is not great for me. And I was ignoring therapy because I just like wasn't ready to work on those things. But I'm doing it and I'm really happy. And yeah, I just to talk about therapy, and we're going to talk about therapy throughout this episode, obviously. Casey does that for a living. Therapy is so important. And if you guys are not in therapy and you don't think you need it, that's cool. But if you are struggling, I think you should really take the time to care for yourself. And that's what therapy is. My happiness or lack of happiness was preventing me from achieving my goals. I'm sure there are things that are doing that to you. And if so, BetterHelp is a really great option. It will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can connect in a safe and private online environment, so it's convenient. You can start communicating in under 48 hours, all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room, which I love. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It is a very, very affordable option, more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. It's also available for clients worldwide. And they have a broad expertise that you might not be able to find locally in your area. Anything you share is confidential. It is so convenient. It is so professional. It's not a crisis line. If you are having a crisis, which I have had, and had to seek separate counseling, definitely you can do that as well. But BetterHelp is really great for everyday, timely, thoughtful responses. And plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, or you can text your counselor anytime, like send a message via the app. It really is a great, great option. I loved starting on BetterHelp for my personal journey. I found it really helpful just to be able to talk to somebody who wasn't biased and get those really thoughtful responses. I mostly would send messages. I only had 1 or 2 phone sessions. I don't recommend doing that. I think you should make them more weekly than I did. But again, I was avoiding therapy. And so when you're ready to start living a happier life, get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/howcome. You can join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. So go to BetterHelp, better, HELP.com/howcome for 10% off your first month. Thanks, BetterHelp. And yeah, I don't know if you guys caught this in the last episode, but I had said that Ben and I were going to be apart for 3 months, and that was really going to be a solo mission. But he came back the other week for Halloween weekend. He surprised me, and we had so much fun. I dressed up as Promising Young Woman, of course, all weekend. Please go on my Instagram, check out all of my costumes. Very proud of them. And he even lent his head to be tall Bo Burnham in the back of one of my shots, which was so sweet. But I just wanted to remind you guys that that movie is now out on HBO Max. I know a lot of you guys were not down to rent it initially on YouTube because it was so fucking expensive. But now, if you have HBO Max, go watch the movie. Also, go check out our episode that we did, Promising Young Women, from, I think it's an extra of season 3. And it's really good and it's really important. And it was an amazing litmus test of like who I could trust. Like if I had been single and out, like there were a lot of promising young women out and about. And we were all talking about how funny it was when somebody would ask what your costume was. You could be a billboard for the movie and be like, oh my God, you have to see it. Or you could be like, have you seen Promising Young Woman? And they'd be like, I didn't like that movie. And you'd be like, okay, you're undateable. Or I would take the opportunity to be like, why? And then they would explain it or whatever. And then I would explain why they were wrong. Or just like give them some of my feelings about it, and had some really great conversations. So I suggest either dressing up as Promising Young Women for Halloween's or paint your nails 5 different rainbow colors that she has the entire movie. And if anybody is like, ooh, that's pretty, be like, it's from Promising Young Woman. But yeah, we had a really great weekend. He came back. We had some rockin' sex, I will say. I have gotten way better at asking for what I want. And what I wanted in one of our sessions was Foria so badly. Foria designs all natural sexual intimacy products for women, people with vulvas, and the people who love them. So did you know that 80% of women don't reach orgasm through sex or penetration alone? Many vulva owners experience pain or sexual discomfort. Sometimes even me. And Foria's products make you feel more relaxed. They enhance arousal and they increase sexual pleasure. They help you achieve bigger and better and more memorable orgasms, and their formulas come in a variety of formats to meet your needs. So there's topical oils for arousal, pleasure, and relief, daily tonics for balance and well-being, suppositories for localized benefits, and bath salts for in-the-moment relaxation. And what's good for nature is what's good for our bodies, which is why Foria's products are always organic, plant-based, and sustainably sourced. My favorite. Each of their unique lines combines the benefits of broad-spectrum CBD from USDA organic, certified, and regeneratively grown hemp with organic and sustainably grown plant extracts that enhance and amplify CBD's effects. Foria's intimacy line also uses natural botanicals like kava to make sex more comfortable by relieving tension and discomfort. And sexual pleasure, as we know, is self-care. So this supports quality sleep, boosting your mood, enhancing your immune system, and connecting us to our bodies. Maybe those are reasons I feel better too, because I've just been like banging and feeling great. So my favorite Foria product is the sex oil. Every time I'm feeling just like, oh, I'm not as wet as I would like to be, I am like, hey, reach for that oil, please. Drip it on my body. Give me a massage so I can get a little warmed up. Like, yes, you can just use it for lube and drip it on your jodge, but you can put it on your body and be like, this time I was like, rub my butt cheeks. Because I remembered Dominus Eros was like, yeah, if you massage butt cheeks, like it like enhances sexual arousal. He said that in season 1, episode 5. Check it out. Yeah, I was like, rub my butt cheeks, rub my boobs. And I got all lubed up, and then we put it on me as well. And then it was it was just Pound Town, baby. And so, yeah, that's the way I like to use it. Both of those ways, either just on the spot or on the body for like a nice massage to just get you more in the mood. It always works for me and I love it. So you can get 20% off your first order at foriawellness.com/howcome or use promo code howcome at checkout. That is FORIA wellness.com/howcome for 20% off your first order. You're going to love it. Oh, and before I jump back in, I just wanted to apologize for the sound quality. This half didn't record my sound on my device, so I had to use Zoom sound. Boo. But it's still a really good episode. And then in the second half, there was construction going on outside of my dad's house. So you'll hear like little like burrs, but apologies. Love you. Okay, what were we talking about? Casey felt that she needed to work on some stuff. Oh, we were talking about whether people want to discuss and disclose the other relationships they're having or not. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm such a talker that, and when I'm excited about something, like I want to share it with my number one. Like there was one time during lockdown when my childhood crush texted me and I wanted to tell my boyfriend, like, I just got so excited about my childhood crush and I wanted him to be like excited for me. But then I was like, I don't think that's something he would be excited for.
Right. Yeah. I mean, did you end up telling him or did you end up keeping it to yourself?
I told him, but I didn't say that I was like Twitter pated.
That seems really fair. Yeah, that was honest.
I was like, he saw us on Bravo. Isn't that exciting?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, in my relationship, we could totally talk about like finding other people attractive, hot, even getting the type of text you described. I think once it goes into acting on those feelings sexually, that's when I'm still figuring out how much I want to know or don't want to know.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I don't always want, like, I'm an anxious person and I'm a visual person. And I don't know if I want access to the imagery because I don't know what my brain will do with it.
Right.
Other people have a lot of compersion and really enjoy hearing those stories, sometimes even get turned on hearing those stories. So it just depends.
And compersion, for those of you who have not watched You, is when it's like the opposite of schadenfreude. It's like you gain happiness from somebody else's pleasure and most likely sexual pleasure. I actually used it in terms of my cat has been staying with my dad and both of them are much happier together than they've ever been with me.
Wow.
And I'm happy for them.
That's compersion.
Compersion.
Oh God.
But then, okay, so obviously when you are in a relationship that's non-monogamous, there are other people involved sometimes, and they are going on dates with these people. At what point in the date would or should a non-monogamous person tell the person that they're seeing that they're already in a relationship?
I think that should be something you discuss before the date even starts, for both people's sake, not just for the other person's sake. I mean, it's a pain to be a non-monogamous person. I mean, I can't even imagine being a non-monogamous person on a date with someone who I don't even know if they would be interested if they knew I was non-monogamous, and vice versa. There's something about that feels like a waste of both people's time and also possibly emotional energy. It's just not worth it.
I think so too.
Yeah. Because it's not a confession. Like saying you're non-monogamous is not a confession. And so there's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think that if you tell somebody and they have a hyper negative reaction to it, that's such good information and probably a yellow or red light in terms of proceeding.
Yeah. And also there are non-monogamous people who are not in relationships, who just go about the world. They're single poly people and stuff. And like, yeah, I think that would be something that you bring up before a date as well, just to get somebody's barometer.
If you're polyam or non-monogamous and you know for a fact that monogamy doesn't work for you, I think that's still something to say beforehand, not as a confession, but more because the other person likely falls into the sort of standard monogamous mindset that most of the world falls into. And why put yourself in that situation? Unless both people are like open to a friendship if the dating situation doesn't work out, which isn't rare in the queer community. I think a lot of us go on sort of vague dates that may become romantic and may become friendship. I think that's a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some good ground rules when you're first discussing or trying?
It just totally depends on the relationship.
Yeah.
I really don't think there's any one size fits all ground rule. I mean, be honest within the definition of honesty that you have for your open relationship. So sometimes honesty means every detail. Sometimes honesty means the vague details, but be honest within whatever those boundaries that you defined are. I mean, that's the biggest one. I mean, a ground rule, or at least guidance I would give, is just get a therapist. Just why do it alone if you don't have to?
They had a great therapist in you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's again, like, nothing to be ashamed of by saying that you want help or to be more intentional in opening the relationship. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with your relationship. It just means, we want an hour a week where we're going to talk about this intentionally.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously there's people who their partners are going to ask them for open relationships. And if they're not ready, what do you think is a good way to say, like, that's not for me, without hurting the other person's feelings?
Well, see, I think like that's exactly the question I always get with the, like, without hurting the other person's feelings at the end of it. And the truth is that you have to just accept that feelings are going to fly around when you open a relationship or when you talk about opening a relationship. So if they really vulnerably brought to you that they're interested in an open relationship, acknowledge that vulnerability, don't shame them, but it's totally within your rights to say, I'm not interested in that right now, and I'm not sure I ever will be, but I'm open to talking about it and hearing more where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had the conversation before because, I mean, I didn't fully really come out until I was already locked into my relationship. And then once I started, exploring myself and my For You page, I was like, I really am missing a lot of the experiences that I would have liked to have had. And I brought it up to my boyfriend, and he was like, that's not for me. Like, I totally understand if at some point you need to break up and you need to explore, and then maybe one day we get back together after you do your thing or whatever, like if we're still in the same place where we still want each other. But personally, I can't do it.
How did that make you feel?
I mean, I think at first I felt
disappointed.
He's not going to let me do whatever I want, which is rude. But it's how I was genuinely feeling. And then
it's how most people feel when they run into a limitation. Like, annoyed, frustrated.
Right. But then I understand that he is a person who knows his limits or what he thinks they are at the time. So I respect that. Yeah.
I mean, beautiful that he felt that he could just be that real with you in that moment. Right? The danger is when somebody isn't real and they say, okay, even though they don't want it. That's when you start to go down, a spiral.
Yeah. One of my other friends had a bad relationship that opened up that way. And I think it was the other person who had really asked for it and needed it. And I think he kind of begrudgingly was like, okay. And then it just blew up because it was something that he wasn't really ready for.
Well, that can happen, especially when you feel like the relationship is going to end if you don't say yes. People will push their boundaries to try to make it work. And in some ways, there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to see what your limits are if you don't want to lose the relationship, and, know when enough is enough.
Yeah. And also, I feel like if both people are, or one wants to, and at least the other one is willing or also wants to, I feel like if it's not working out, you can do what you guys do and be like, it's not working out.
Right now.
It's not
all or nothing.
Yeah. Like, hey, this is who we're going to be now.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I think most people, this is not a real statistic, but I think that most people go through a bunch of versions of non-monogamy before they find the one that's right for them.
The version of non-monogamy, not the one person.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly.
That's another thing I have been thinking about is there have been people talking about wanting open relationships, and then some of the things they say leads me to believe that it's not necessarily they want an open relationship, but they want another relationship.
Yes, that does happen too.
How do you differentiate between wanting to explore and wanting an entirely new human?
Yeah, I mean, if you want an entirely new human and you also want your current human, then polyamory might be right for you. But if you want an entirely new human because you don't really like your current human and you feel like the reason you're staying is because you're afraid to leave or because you would miss them because they're so integrated into your life, or you don't want to see them end up with somebody else. I mean, those are reasons that might point in the direction of, okay, I'm adding a relationship because this one clearly is not the one for me or a one for me. But if you feel like the partnership you have is really valuable and you're just both people, all people are looking to, I think when all people realize that, yeah, like it's great to have more than one person meeting your needs, that can be really helpful. That's totally okay. But yeah, there's a line between those two.
Yeah, those things that you just mentioned, I just saw a little infographic recently about fear-based dating.
Mm-hmm.
And how a lot of people will just stay in a relationship because they're scared of how it's going to change their life if they're not in it anymore, or they're worried that they're not going to find anybody else.
Yep.
And those things kind of signal to me it's not that you love your person so much, it's just that you're scared.
Right. And I think it's a systemic problem because our world is so structured for long-term relationships that lead to marriage and children, that it's not just what you're losing in the person, but also what you're losing in terms of your life trajectory that you think you're supposed to be on. I think there's so much understandable fear there. I've definitely been through that.
And you guys, your life trajectory can always pick up. Like I keep making this joke, but like all my friends have kids that are around like 2, 1 little babies or whatever. I feel behind, but if I adopt a 5-year-old in 2 years, I'm caught up, man.
Okay. Right. Level up.
Trajectory went like that. Back. What about jealousy? Can jealous people be in non-monogamous relationships?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be harder. Definitely. The emotions that come up around non-monogamy are never the problem. It's always how they are enacted and what people do with those emotions. So if the jealousy leads to control, coercion, shaming for things that are within the bounds of the relationship, then you have a problem. But if you're somebody that's jealous and has the support system and the internal support system to regulate around that, it's very doable. People do it all the time.
Okay. Is voicing jealousy helpful?
I think transparency around emotions is really helpful. Doesn't mean you know every single time a jealous thought pops into your head, you need to verbalize it. But whenever you have your sort of regularly established check-ins around non-monogamy, it's a great time to say like, hey, I was dealing with some jealousy this week. And I would recommend following that up with what it is you need around that. Is it reassurance? Is it just someone to listen? Is it just you wanted to say it out loud and you don't really need anything? So yeah, I think talking about jealousy can be a very healthy part of it.
Yeah. I mean, it also could be a little hot for some people where it's like,
sure, totally.
Maybe they didn't think you were paying attention or that you could feel jealous over them anymore.
Well, there's also I've experienced this feeling simultaneously jealous and turned on at the same exact time. right? Like, oh, I don't know if I'm turned on by that or I'm jealous. I'm probably both. And it's a weird bodily sensation that like, you know, isn't on the feelings wheel.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, sometimes I'll see people hitting on Ben and I'm like mad, but I'm also like proud.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's so natural. We want to know that people want what we have. That's just human. Now, we also want to know that what we have won't, you know, surprisingly leave us for the other people that want them. But when you have that combination, you know, you're solid.
I don't know if you don't have like a statistic on this, but like the couples that have come to you who are practicing non-monogamy, is it often that one of them would leave the other for someone else?
No.
Okay.
I've actually never had that.
Great.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you asked because I hadn't reflected on that, but I've never had either an individual or relationship client open up and want to leave for the person that they met during the time that they were open. I think more often, even though like shit can hit the fan emotionally, and that's to be expected, I think people find a lot of respect and love for their partner that they opened with, because they see like, wow, this person loves, respects me and my needs enough that like we're in the mud of this together because we care that much. It's not always that simple, but yeah, the couples I see, that's often where they land.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a lot of people's fear. Is like, oh, you just want to open up because you have some secret crush that you want to leave me for. And then.
Well, you make a good point there, which is that sometimes opening up with a specific person in mind can be a setup. Not even necessarily consciously, but that is a very different conversation than monogamy generally isn't working for me and I'm generally interested in non-monogamy. It feels very different when in a monogamous relationship, you're coming to your partner with someone in mind. I think it raises questions about what's gone on in that relationship that's gotten you to this place that you're
right. Like, how much have you guys been talking and plotting?
Sure. Yeah.
And
reasonable questions.
That like removes honesty from the whole conversation, because it's like, oh, you've already been kind of planting seeds.
Sure. And you know, if you're experiencing like a crush that develops into infatuation, that develops into more with someone in your life, and you're grappling with that, the first conversation, my recommendation would be for the first conversation to be about that. Like I'm grappling with this person who is sort of permanently in my life, whether it's at work or in this friend group. I want to be respectful of what we have going on here. Like, I want to make you aware of it. Now, if that conversation evolves into a place where non-monogamy gets to be on the table, that's one thing. But I think it's different when there's already a developing relationship.
Yeah. Like if Joe had said to Love.
It's amazing that came out right before this episode. We have so much to go off of.
It's insane. What type of people would an open relationship not suit?
People, well, it's so tough. But if you're somebody that has a super anxious attachment style, and at sort of like the slightest witnessing of your partner, even flirting with somebody else, if that gets you really activated and triggers symptoms that like might be associated with mental illness, like intense anxiety, depression, or some type of like downward spiral in functioning, this may not be the time to open a relationship. It doesn't mean you might not be able to get there with some work around attachment stuff. Now, I have had people push back on that and say that, you know, for some people with anxious or avoidant attachment, open relationships can help. And I think, you know, I see that less often, but I'm willing to not write that off. I think if you've got like some really great therapy, then maybe you could do it. Just know that you are opting into a relationship style that is harder and takes more work.
Yeah.
And for many, it's more worth it.
I think honestly, hearing you say that is kind of funny, because I think that's why Ben also was like, this wouldn't work for us, because he knows me and I am very anxious, avoidant, like, or I don't even know what my attachment style is, but it's not secure. And I think that that's something maybe your partner can see in you too. And if they really care about you, they're like, your brain might not be able to do this right now. You know,
yeah,
like,
or just saying like, I'm afraid based off of how you've reacted in these situations or what you're dealing with, like, I'm afraid that opening up would take up emotional space that like really should be focused on X, Y, or Z. And that's a reasonable fear to express.
yeah. Do you think, well, not do you think, but how does commitment in a monogamous relationship vary from commitment in a non-monogamous relationship?
You know, it depends what kind of non-monogamy we're talking about. But if there's a primary partnership, or if it's a polyamorous relationship where there's multiple partners, I think that commitment is really no different. It's very possible to have children in these relationships, get married if you want to. Often, like, multiple partners will be in community together around a child. It's completely possible to be committed. Now, I think if there's a primary relationship that people are exploring outside of relationships in, one thing that does sometimes come up is the difference between like nesting partners and non-nesting partners. So oftentimes you can't commit to living with every single partner. You can't commit to having kids with every single partner. Sometimes you can, some people do. Yeah. But that's where some of the more concrete things we often associate with commitment might vary relationship to relationship.
Or like, who do you introduce your parents to?
Totally. Who gets to go home for the holidays? Who goes on family vacations? Those are things to talk about before you get there.
Yeah. I watched Polyamory on Showtime. Did you ever see that? It's an okay show. Super white, but very educational for poly relationships. And one of the cutest parts I found was when this throuple opened up to their parents, that they were like, yeah, we're actually in a 3-person relationship and we all want to get married. And the parents were like so sweet and accepting.
What? Wow.
Yeah. It was very heartwarming.
That's beautiful. I feel like I need to watch it as a healing experience and just pretend they were my parents.
Were your parents not?
My parents definitely think non-monogamy is cheating, period, hard stop. So they, luckily they don't listen to any of my podcasts, so they won't hear this episode. But yeah. And I talk about it openly on Instagram, but they see what they want to see. So yeah, they have no idea and they would not know how to wrap their heads around it.
And that must feel really tough sometimes because it's like they're your parents.
I think this is maybe another queer thing, but like my parents also don't understand my queerness. So I think just assumed there'd be no way they would understand. I'm sort of used to it, but yeah, initially a lot of grief around that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, especially if you want to have a long-term something with a person, but they don't understand or want to have anything to do with that relationship because they think it's as bad as cheating.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It's hurtful, but it's also really cool that you know yourself enough to not let it interfere with your life.
Yeah, I think so. My parents are divorced. They probably could have used an open marriage.
I was going to say.
They probably could have, honestly.
They're just jealous of you.
Yeah, I mean, I would not choose the type of relationships my parents choose. And thus I don't feel like I need to be guided by what they would approve of or not. I feel very comfortable breaking off of that.
It's really interesting I'm not a child of divorce. I'm a child of separated parents who see other people. But we count that as divorced or whatever. But it's like when you grow up seeing a couple that didn't work out, you kind of put a little less stock in their opinions on.
That's so funny. I agree to a certain point. I also feel like there's a lot to learn from failed relationships.
Oh my God.
In our own lives and their lives. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to my parents, yeah, I definitely say that all the time. I'm like, stop giving me relationship advice. You lost that right. But that's kind of extreme of me, I'll admit.
No, but I do wonder if some relationships could benefit from opening up for a little bit and maybe adding like a little spice or
Totally.
adding just more conversation and more like emotional intimacy.
That's such a great point. I think that sometimes non-monogamy will bring up conversations that monogamous people should be having or could really benefit from having. So to your point, yeah, it certainly brings up a lot of opportunities for emotional intimacy.
I was just thinking that if your parents had opened up their relationship, how do you think that would have like affected you as a child?
Yeah, great question. I mean, if I could choose between my parents being in an open relationship and having gone through their divorce, I would choose the open relationship.
Same.
I know that probably would have come with its own set of whatevers. But I think there are ways to like be developmentally appropriate in the way that you explain it to kids. I think you can be thoughtful about that. And I also think there's some parts of it that kids don't have to know everything like until they're ready to.
Yeah.
So I think it's very doable in a healthy way.
Yeah. And I think there were some kids on polyamory or like another show that I watched where it was like totally normal for them because they don't see these people having sex. They just see another person loving and caring for their parent.
Another adult that loves and them too.
And them. Yeah.
Like I was raised by a nanny, and like how different would it have been to just have a third adult in my life that cared about me, that couldn't quit their job essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think monogamous couples have their ways of doing this. And they don't realize that polyamory lends itself to that sort of it takes a village model of living.
Like they don't say that for no reason.
Right.
They don't, not the village doesn't necessarily all need to be having sex with each other, but like I have had many points in my life where my parents weren't equipped to deal with what I was dealing with. So I had to go to an aunt or an uncle or a mentor or something like that. And it's like, let that mentor fuck your mom. No.
Why not?
Why not? No, but I mean, like, just to the divorced parents thing, like a lot of people get divorced because of cheating. And if there are conversations in place where it's like, this isn't cheating, this is exploration, and you're here with me on the journey. Like the thing that cheating does to people is it makes one person less than the other person. You are removing information from them and making it seem like they just don't need to know because like they're not as important or whatever. And it's like, I think just bringing those conversations to them just shows respect.
Yeah, I mean, so often with cheating, it's the betrayal more than the sex that is painful. And non-monogamy is like taking the betrayal out of having sex with other people, right? So.
Exactly.
I think it can be a really great idea for some people. And I think you guys, if you are thinking about it, why not say something? Is there any like too early in a relationship to bring it up?
No, gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, if you start out non-monogamous, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, like if you can build a relationship on non-monogamy, then I think I think there's actually something really beautiful and a lot of possibilities there because there's no loss of monogamy to cope with in that situation.
And I'm thinking that there's probably a lot of people listening who are struggling with their identities as whether they are monogamous or they're non-monogamous or they're poly. Do you have to act on non-monogamy to consider yourself a non-monogamous person? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think like if you're single and not dating anyone, for example, and you just know that monogamy isn't for you, you're probably a non-monogamous person. If you're in a relationship and it's open, but neither of you are really like actively sleeping with or dating other people, you're still open. I think with any identity, it's not so much in the behavior as it is that internal sense of self that matters. Yeah.
And have you guys ever played with a person at the same time? Or okay, great.
That's our favorite thing. That's like our safe space, I think.
Awesome.
That's always gone well for us.
I love that.
Highly recommend.
The one time I did that, it was not good. And I would like to
I'm sorry.
recreate. Well, I wasn't in a relationship at the time. Like it was more like a threesome for threesome's sake.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it can be like such a cool bonding moment for the couple.
It was. Yeah, we went and got donuts the next day and just debriefed as if we had just finished, the finale of our favorite TV show. It was lovely.
The recap.
We
love the recap.
That's what it was. Yeah. Threesome recap. The best.
Or like, and did you end up calling that person again, or was that some?
No.
Okay.
But I also felt like it wasn't because we didn't enjoy it or her. I think we felt just like satisfied with what had happened and like didn't feel the need to go back. Yeah.
How do you hold space for the other person's feelings? Like, let's say she wanted to revisit things.
Yes. Luckily that did not happen. But I think the next morning we asked her if there was anything she needed, or I think we all were sort of like, all right, we haven't really done this much. Like, what happens now? And we sort of talked openly about what would come next. But it's like rejecting anyone. It's shitty. It's not going to feel good. But if you do it respectfully and honestly, then you're well within your rights and you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah. And I think like what you said before is like, how do I do it without hurting someone's feelings? Like you probably will hurt their feelings, but
that's not the worst thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
People
also, if you hurt their feelings, then they can move on.
Right. Well, it's better than the slow fade or the passive cues. Just be assertive. Just say it.
Yeah. Oh, this has been so fun and so educational. And I know a million people are going to have a million more questions for you. Would you be open to coming back and maybe doing some Patreon questions?
Yeah, definitely. I would come back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know.
Casey, am I allowed to ask you about your first time coming?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Do you remember your first orgasm?
I remember like all the events surrounding it, not the exact moment, but my therapist actually had given me an assignment to go buy a vibrator.
Love an assignment.
So I bought my first vibrator. I'd never used one before. I was 22. And I was in my college dorm at a college where masturbation is not allowed.
What?
Yeah. I masturbated, I orgasmed, and I could not believe it. I emailed my therapist immediately.
Amazing.
And I think did not sleep that night. I think I had probably 20 orgasms. And then I brought my vibrator everywhere that I went. It became sort of like an attachment object. I don't really know how to describe it. I was like, now that I've met you, I am never letting go.
It's a security vibrator.
It was a security vibrator at that point. Yeah.
It actually has the little vest so you can bring it on planes and stuff.
Oh, I do bring it on planes actually.
My emotional support vibrator.
Yeah. I don't do that anymore, but I now have hundreds of vibrators thanks to my job. So I feel pretty well protected.
I love it. Do you remember what it was? What toy it was?
Oh my God. I know it was purple. That's all I know.
What is the deal? I literally...
All of us get purple, right?
I saw a tweet this week. Why are so many sex toys purple? Is there some sort of science behind purple and horniness?
Oh gosh, I should ask that question.
I would venture to say yes. Because Tinky Winky is the horniest Teletubby and he is purple.
I love that theory. For me, it's like when I pick out a dildo or a strap-on or a vibrator, I'm like, okay, for me, I don't really want any kind of skin color. Yeah. And blue feels like it reminds me of blue balls. And white feels like it gets dirty. Pink is too feminine for me. Okay, purple.
I agree. Yeah.
Part of the decision tree.
Purple's a nice neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and your experiences with us.
Yeah. Thank you. Great questions.
Of course. Where can everybody find you online? And
so my Instagram is the best place. It's at Queer Sex Therapy. We do lots of free sex ed. We talk a lot about open relationships. Also, the expansivegroup.com is my therapy practice, and we can see folks all over the world. So if you're hearing this and you're thinking like, all right, I want to open up and I want a therapist, all of our therapists are trained in working with non-monogamous folks.
Yeah. I have to say, I love your Instagram so much. We actually shared an infographic on coming out day because you had so many little rainbows that like nobody's addressed yet.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really sweet. And it was like very like, I always share the turtle that's not ready to come out. And it's like, even if you're gay and you're not out or whatever, like yours was like, even if you're gay in some circles and not out to some people, like that's still valid.
Parts of it.
Yeah. It's really sweet. And I'm really appreciative of all your work and the fact that you could come on today. I do have to ask you this question though, after a sexual experience. I always ask, Casey Tanner, did you finish?
Oh yeah, I finished a couple times.
Oh, great. I'm so glad. Thank you for coming.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
How fun was that? I think she's a genius. Definitely follow her. And also follow our next guest, comedian and our buddy, Khalid Rahmaan, who you know from the episode Effing Up Sex. And now he's back.
Hi, friend.
How are y'all doing? It's so good to see y'all.
We're so happy to have the reunion.
Hell yeah.
Wow, man.
Do you want me to record audio on this end as a backup track?
Maybe. With
All right,
the sound that's in the back of Remedies.
All right, I'll turn it on.
This is RK, and KR reunited.
Yes. Reunited and it feels so good. Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum. Oh yeah.
Also, we were working on a project over the pandemic called the TikTok Show. So we used to see each other like every week doing this thing. It's going to resume at some point.
It's going to resume. It's going to resume.
We actually,
I feel
it'll be good.
But this is a crew, and we're very excited to have you back, Khalid. I'm so stoked to hear about your relationships in this format because I know what you've told me. And this week we were talking to Queer Sex Therapy about open relationships. And I was like, let's talk to my buddy. Let's catch up with Khalid with a K, catch up. Tell us everything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
How were your relationships before you were open?
So my relationships before I was open were, how do I say this? Hot mess. Hot mess central. I always felt restricted and not comfortable and squirmy, very squirmy in pretty much all the relationships I had before I decided to be open at this time, like kind of during the pandemic. And I mean, I was a cheater. I mean, just low down, dirty dog, alley cat, cheating, running around in these streets. It was not good. I'm not proud. I kind of had to have a sit down with myself about what kind of person I wanted to be. And I think that what I kind of decided was that I need to try something different. You know, like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I was not good at monogamy. I got straight D's and F's.
Yeah.
So I had to try something new, and it's been so good. It's been such an easy and natural progression, transition, I guess I'd say, and I'm so happy with it. Yeah,
we not that this is like. It's related because you sent me a text message the other day about how you just watched Promising Young Woman, and you were like, like that was part of like the sit down with myself and like decide who I want to be better and stuff. And I was just like, oh, like I love to hear that because obviously there are so many people who have cheated or, you know, done fucked up shit. And like, what we always say is like how you reconcile with it. And it, like, once you're like met with the fact that like, you don't feel that this is great, like, what do you do about it?
Exactly. I mean, I had to really basically say to myself, that you can say you're a good guy all you want, but you can't really call yourself a good guy if you're doing dirt to women.
Yeah.
If you're running around cheating, lying, being dishonest, leading people on, you're not a good guy. No matter how much your mom
Or a
tells you
good
you
person.
are, you're not.
Because like there's people of every gender that are doing this shit. And like, yes, cis straight men are conditioned to do it more, that it's like, yes, cheating's fine. Yes, rape culture is a thing that we laugh at or whatever. But like anybody who has to unlearn something, it's like that first step that's like, okay, yeah, I've been doing something shitty that also doesn't align with my character.
Yeah. I mean, I had my last two relationships that were not open were during the pandemic. And in back-to-back relationships, up front, I said, hey, I'd like for this to be non-monogamous. And the first woman I was seeing was like, so I don't think that's for me, but why don't we just date each other for a while? And then later on, we can revisit. And I stupidly was like, sure, that sounds fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, she told me this is not for me. That should have been the end of our dating discussion. But instead, I was being a people pleaser. I was, let's be honest, lonely. It was the pandemic was starting, wanted to be with someone. And that was a big motivator for, I think, people who were in these relationships during the pandemic, especially early on. A lot of people stayed together because they just did not want to be alone during this global disaster. Yeah, and it was hard because feelings got really strong, and then after a few months, maybe like 3 or 4 months, I just I told her, I was like, I don't want to be in a monogamous relationship, and she was crying, and she thought I was being really dumb. She kept on saying, "You're being really dumb." And it was really hard.
Also, what you were saying before, that people didn't want to break up because they didn't want to be alone, that's fear-based dating, where it's like you don't break up just because you think that you won't find something else. And like that is as harmful to a relationship as cheating, even,
Absolutely.
you're in it for the wrong reasons. Totally. So this one didn't work out, which, I mean, you were upfront from the beginning. But maybe you should have.
However, I have a lot of responsibility in that because I'm the one who should have said, hey, I don't think we are a fit. I know it's the pandemic. I know it's going to be hard to meet someone else. I know we're probably going to be alone if we don't end up dating right now. But guess what? It's probably better to do that than to go down this path, develop stronger feelings, and then be like, oops, whoops, sorry, psych.
Broke another heart.
That's not. Exactly. And then I went from that relationship to doing almost the exact same thing again with another wonderful person who I met right after this last one. And I told her up front, hey, I don't want to be in a monogamous relationship. And she said, I'm open to that. I'm open to being non-monogamous, but I'd like to start with a period of monogamy to build up trust. And then we can revisit. And I'm like, what am I, in hindsight, I'm like, what am I doing? Why did I agree to this? Because what I should have said was, let's talk about this more. Now, when you say period of monogamy, how long a period are you talking about?
What are the boundaries and the parameters? Not like, are you tricking me into monogamy?
That's a reasonable question to ask, right? And I was like, okay. And we end up dating, falling really, really hard. But as time went by, I started to kind of feel like, hey, what's up with this non-monogamy that we were talking about before? And so one day we were somewhere shopping. And
love to be
I kind of brought it
somewhere.
up. I bought up. We were somewhere, getting away from the city.
Ouch.
We were shopping. We were actually in line at Walmart trying to buy some camping equipment, and we started talking about our relationship. And I said, so when you talk about a period of non-monogamy, how long were you thinking? And she goes, well, I was thinking anywhere from 6 months to 2 years.
No.
And I was like. And she goes, what were you thinking? And of course, I'm a comic, so I always go for the joke. I said, I was thinking, whenever there's a vaccine available. And she did not think that was as funny as I did. So
the thing is I feel like so many people were dating that way, but just not saying it. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yes, that's one thing I learned from those two relationships. I learned that basically the unsaid really is the enemy of a good relationship. If you have things that are just unsaid, you should question why they're unsaid, and then you should say them. Because that is going to be what ultimately decides if you have a successful relationship or not, whether it's monogamous, non-monogamous, whatever shape it takes. You shouldn't be having these unsaid, unspoken rules or unspoken taboos or unspoken like issues. You should be like, yo, I got a problem. Let's talk about it. And then, you know, if your partner brings up a problem, be open to them talking about it. Because I've just had that unsaid stuff wreck almost everything every single time.
Totally.
So that conversation was the beginning of the end. I think we broke up maybe a month and a half after that. Where basically, you know, I saw that she really wasn't into the idea of being non-monogamous. She was trying to kind of put it off and hoping that I would change my mind because we had fallen for each other. Complicating matters, she also announced that she had changed her mind about wanting to have a baby.
And you don't want to have a baby.
And I was like, I don't want kids. I said that also on the very first date, that I am not into kids.
Just such
and
a Virgo,
like, okay.
Just dumping everything, being like, here's me, take it or leave it.
Gang, 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 Virgo gang, what's up? Oversharing from the get-go since 1977, baby. Yeah, it's nuts. That's how we get down. We go deep quick, and I like that. I really dig that. People can get on board. But yeah, after that, you know, we broke up shortly after that. I think we broke up a week after the whole baby conversation because then she kind of tried to convince me a little bit to have a baby, and I thought that was very uncool.
That is very uncool.
So, yo, bro, it's uncool. It's uncool to not puff pass. Also uncool to try to convince someone to have a baby.
You say no baby and then psych.
Psych. She got me pretty good. Ribby.
That was funny. It was a good joke.
It was a good one. You got me good.
It's even, but yeah. No baby.
She said that. I went, you. So basically, after that, I was like, you know what? No more of this. I'm going full scale. It's on my dating profiles, non-monogamy, open to like-minded people.
Awesome.
And since then, it's been really good.
Fun.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I pretty quickly reconnected with someone who I'd been dating a couple of years earlier and had kind of like a false start or two with. And just always thought about her. She was just always great to me. She just always had such a great spirit and was really down for me. And, you know, I approached her in December of 2020. Just texted and kind of like, you know, told her where I was at, what I was up to, where my mind had gone in terms of relationships and monogamy. And she said, did you mention that because you're interested in possibly being non-monogamous with me? And I was like, maybe. And she was like, well, you know what? I have to think about this. She also had to think about giving me another chance because this was technically our third time around.
Had you cheated on her
The first
before?
time was an aborted time.
Oh, okay.
No, we had not really dated seriously. We had not really dated very long. So like the first time around, I was talking to her. We went on one date, and then someone else
was stalking her, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
I was like, "Hold on, let me."
I was outside of her window with my binoculars,
Yes, you do.
as I do.
Yeah.
No, I was talking to her, and then someone else who I'd been talking to a little bit, she kind of came more prominently into the picture. And I told this woman who I was really interested in that, you know, I think I have to see where this other thing goes. And she was very understanding, respectful. And then I came back around like 6 months later, we started dating, and the same thing happened. I was like, I think I need to see where this other thing goes. And she was like, you know what? She was like, you know what? This is kind of hurtful, and I understand, but I'm letting you know that if you do this, there will almost certainly not be another chance. So make your decisions real clear.
Yeah.
And I was like, I understand that, and I totally, you know, respect what you're saying. And then, of course, I still came back around again, December 2020. And this time, you know, she was like, you know what? You know what I said last time? I have to think about this. This is really like a mind bender. I will get back to you. And then like a month later, she texted me and she was like, you know what? Let's go out and just see. And we went out and we had a really, really nice time. I kind of talked to her about where I was at in my life, changes I'd made during 2020. I had a lot change between the time we dated last and this time. I mean, I got my own apartment.
Yeah.
I got a really strong
And it took forever.
Huge. 20 years of roommates in New York City. 20 years. That's too many if you're listening out there. That is too many. Do not do that.
Unless you have to.
Unless you have to.
In which, try harder.
Unless you have to.
Fix your life.
Fix your life.
I'm like literally trying to get my first apartment right now. So don't even.
I love it. But yeah, so I got a really great remote day job that is really it fits into my life with my comedy goals and the comedy things I'm doing very nicely because I can do it remotely on the road, in hotel rooms if need be. And my bosses are super cool. So I was like, this is great, pays all the bills. I'm not desperate and hard up to make it in comedy anymore, which is like, I think was a big source
Such a stress relief.
Oh,
yeah.
Huge source of my previous unhappiness.
Okay. But so to get back to this relationship.
Yes.
So now you're back with this woman who you had wronged twice.
When you put it like that.
Wait. But the only reason you wronged her is because in those scenarios, you needed to take a break from her in order to see if something else was going to work because you were living a monogamous lifestyle.
Yes.
Whereas now it wouldn't be like, I need to leave you for someone else. It'd be like, hey, maybe I need to incorporate somebody else, but this means nothing about my love for you.
Exactly. You nailed it. That's exactly what it was. If I was on the right path previously, I would have been like dating openly. I would have been like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to go on a date with someone who I'm interested in. And I would have maybe been dating two people, and that would have been fine because everyone would have been aware and consenting, which is very, very important. And it would have been cool. But instead, I was living this lie, basically. And, I think from talking to her, she realized that these things were true. And so we've been dating since January. And honestly, like, it's one of the most healthy relationships I've ever been in. I'm so happy. We go on trips together. I've met her friends. I met her family.
Is she the one you just did the trip with?
Yes. Up to the Catskills. Yeah. She hooked up a really great trip for us. We went to the Catskills. We also went to see John Mulaney.
I've got Catskills.
Yeah, you got Catskills. Meow.
Meow.
We saw John Mulaney for one night in Philadelphia, which was
freshly single John Mulaney.
Oh my God, I can't believe the saga. His hour is just going to get better and better from his crazy life. I mean, he was on fire. His new hour is amazing. When it comes on Netflix, you have to watch it. Or go see him live. He's on tour right now. And basically, we're having a great relationship.
And Anna Marie is doing well, too. She's just doing TikTok, and she's fucking killing it. Just so everybody knows, we're on both sides. We love everyone.
Anna Marie is?
Anna Marie Tendler is his
his ex-wife. Gotcha. Oh, sorry about the barking.
That he allegedly cheated on, but, like, I don't think that there was any...
I have a dog here. This is funny, a funny segue. Hey. Quiet, Tessa. This is funny because a great segue into this next part that's related is that I've also been seeing another wonderful woman. We'll call her J. We'll call the first woman B, since they are not all the way out to their friends about being non-monogamous, and that's the thing we'll talk about.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
But basically,
not cool, but interesting.
Yes. Jay, yes. I'm dog sitting her dog because she is in Mexico with her best friend from way back, and they're having a girls' weekend. So it's interesting. So basically, me and B went away last week. This week, Jay is away, and I'm babysitting her dog, and it's all very seamless. Like I went on a trip to Boston with Jay, and then while we were on the bus waiting to take off for Boston, I get a text from B being like, "Hey, I just want to say I hope you and Jay have the best weekend."
Oh my God.
It was the sweetest thing anyone has ever said to me. It was so nice. And I told Jay, and she was
compersion, baby.
Compersion. And I told Jay, and she was so touched by it. And I think since then, things have even been better. So, I mean, I just think like this is just what I should have been doing the whole time. I feel like I'm always one of these people who will go back and be like, oh, God, I wish I'd figured that out years ago. But I feel like now I figure things out when I was supposed to in some way. All these things have kind of come together in my life, professionally, personally, like just living at home, living in my home by myself, which is when it was supposed to happen. All things have come together since I kind of figured all these things out.
I saw a really great late bloomer post today. It says, just because you took longer than others doesn't mean you failed. You are right on time.
Oh, I love that sentiment, and I also love any late bloomer post that's like, so and so didn't hit it big till they were 49, and I'm like, hell yeah, like it makes me feel so hopeful.
Yeah, it always was Rodney Dangerfield, and it's like, well, I don't want to be him, but
yeah, also
good to know.
Also, the business was very different back then.
Definitely,
but at the same time, I've also kind of we talked about this privately, but I've reconfigured what that even means, what making it means. And I think that was very important too, in terms of like this whole holistic way I've changed is that, I used to think making it involve certain like markers of professional success, but now I think making it mainly is just being happy and taking care of business. So
I think a lot of people think of it like making it in their relationships too as like this very cookie cutter thing of like marriage, babies, and sometimes like I will even feel behind in that stuff. And it's like, no, making it is like what you need to make of it, like what your definition of success is.
I think for an adult, I've thought a lot about this. I think that making it should be defined as like taking care of your financial responsibilities and leading a healthy, happy life. And so that works for anyone, to be honest. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what walk of life. Like you need to be able to take care of yourself.
Or what age.
Yeah.
Like if you feel behind in high school, it's like, but what actually works for you?
Yeah. I mean, you just baseline need to be able to take care of your financial responsibilities and not be like a burden to someone else. If you can do it out there in this world working unfortunately under capitalism, you need to be able to take care of your business. And you need to be making sure that you're checking in with your mental health and your physical health and just being a happy person. If you're doing those things, I think you're making it. If you're not doing those things, you can do those things. It's very easy to make it under those guidelines.
Yeah, totally. So the two of them are not out to their friends yet as
they're out to
non-monogamous.
So B is out to all of her close friends. About being non-monogamous, and then still working on, telling her family because she wants to do that. And then Jay is out to her friends, doesn't really have a close relationship with her family because a lot of them kind of suck. And that's kind of where we're at. I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm out to everybody. I'm on How Come, baby.
Yeah. No, I was so proud of you when you first told me too, because I was like, yes, I've seen this for you.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. I told my mom.
It's like when somebody comes out as anything else, you're like, yes.
People don't realize that it really is a coming out because there is a stigma, and more than a stigma, there's just a complete lack of understanding. People just don't know what it is or how people do things, and it makes people kind of reticent to tell folks. So I told my mom and my dad the same week, and it was so funny, just like the gendered reactions.
Yeah.
My mom was very concerned. She was like, I just, how is, are they, she just had so many questions of concern. But then she kind of came around and was just like very happy that I was happy because it's become so obvious to people in my life how happy I am. Like, I'm just always smiling. I'm always like just...
Yeah, you seem good.
Yeah, I'm just in a good mindset. Like, I'm always saying this is the best time of my life because it truly is. And it's just obvious. And then I told my dad, and he was just like amazed more than anything. He was just like...
how did you pull this off?
Yeah, that's an option. That's an option? You could do that?
Yeah.
He was so... I half expected him to be like, so... explain to me how I can explain this concept to Joan, my wife.
Yeah, literally. We have some talking to do.
Yeah, but no, so it's so funny. I was talking to him and Joan about it because I went to DC recently to do some shows, and they live down there. And we went to dinner before the show, and I was explaining to them, and the looks on Joan's face was so funny. She was so confused. Like, they're both like almost 70. But they were also, again, they came around to this idea. They were like, listen, we were actually talking about you after you got off the phone with us last week. And we kept on saying, I cannot believe how happy Khalid is. I cannot believe how happy he is. This is such a blessing. So they know that this is the right thing for me.
Cool. And the B and J, are they seeing anybody else?
I hate that together their initials are BJ.
I know. I didn't want to make a joke.
I hate it. But that is what it is. So B is seeing someone.
It should be lick balls if we're talking about you.
LB, get me a Lisa.
LB.
No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh boy. We have fun. But basically, so B is seeing someone casually from the past who seems like a really nice guy. He seems really nice. Cool. And then J is dating, but we've run into this thing where like she has had, and from anecdotally, from what she's told me, it seems like mostly toxic relationships. So I think this is the first healthy one. We both relationships, both B and J, we do check-ins where we just in an organized way check in with how our relationship is going, and we'll in advance say, hey, let's do a check-in on Wednesday, and then B will bring notes to the check-in. She will bring notes, written notes, and because she doesn't want to forget anything, which is so awesome. Yeah. I'm, Virgo, very organized, and I kind of like vibe with that.
What's she?
She is born in March, which I don't know which. Okay, yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah, and then Jay has been more reticent about the check-ins because they make her nervous, even though everything's going well because she has some anxiety. But also very
She's
awesome
had
at them.
Like really annoying parents and teachers probably.
And family.
Like, come in, you're in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, just people not making it to share. So a big journey for me has been like, how do I support and behave in such a way that makes her more comfortable to always say what's on her mind, to always like, come to me with things that even might be uncomfortable. And that's been like a really rewarding journey because like I've seen the openness open up more, and we're like in a great place. She started making plans for us like in advance for us to do things down the road, which makes me feel like, oh, she like sees us together. We've been dating since June. And I'm watching her dog right now at my place, so obviously things are going pretty well. Yeah. And I love being able to do that. I love dogs too. But what I was saying about her though is that she's been dating, and the stories, the kind of things she tells me about going on these dates, it makes me feel bad because I feel like she's just going out with jerks who just like don't plan anything, who don't treat her well. And I'm like, honestly, the only thing that would make me feel bad about you dating is if you just dated shitty dudes. Like, I don't want to be in the company of shitty dudes. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like it would matter about myself that you're like dating me, but also dating this asshole. It's like, what does that mean about me? And I know I shouldn't feel like, what does that mean about me? But it just does. It's just how I feel. So she kind of interpreted that
like
as
you also don't want to see her not knowing her worth.
Exactly. But she interpreted that as me being like, well, when you say that, it makes me feel like you don't want me to date also. And I'm like, no, that's not how I feel. I honestly will be happy with anyone. I'm happy knowing there's another person on Team J, right? But if there's like a person who's like a bad person on your team, I don't like it. So that's been a struggle. It's been a little bit of a thing we've talked about. But she now understands that I am 100% on board with her dating other people. I just want them to be good people. And like, don't put up with like, because I've noticed
thing to want.
Yes, and I've noticed that my standard for dating other people has gone up since I started dating these two wonderful women. Like, I don't want to talk to someone else if they're not like awesome, because I'm with two awesome women, and like I don't want like not awesome. So basically, like I want her to feel that way also for herself. I want her to want more for herself than like to date like crappy dudes because I know how I treat her really well, you know, and I want other people to treat her well as well.
She should have guys who are like, oh my God, have an amazing weekend with Khalid.
Yeah. And also guys who plan dates, and guys who tell her she's special, and guys who say, you know, how they feel and like are open to communicating hard things and like the kind of like the things, you know. Our relationships don't have to look the same, but I want people to treat her with the same level of like respect and love. And so that's a hard thing. That's the only thing I found to be a little bit of a struggle in this is like resigning myself to the fact that, hey, these are grown women who are going to go out and do what they're going to do, and they're going to have to make those determinations for themselves. You know, like whether a guy is worthy of spending more time with or not.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of love, because you mentioned love, you have said I love you to both of them, yes?
Yes, and I do. I very much do love both of these ladies and hope they're in my life for a long time. Yeah.
Was who got I love you first? Were they in similar time spans?
Maybe like 2 months apart.
Okay.
I don't want to get into first but it was
right.
it was interesting. B didn't say it back right away. And then like the next day or 2 days later, she was like, you know what? I really took in what you said, and I feel the same way. I love you too. And like, I've just been kind of holding back because I've been, we had a very rocky start. We had 2 false starts.
Journey.
We had 2 false starts.
Yeah.
And she, the trust has to be built back up. And then Jay actually said it to me accidentally first. We were both high.
Oh, so cute.
And I knew it was an accident, but also it was how she felt. So I didn't hesitate to say it back. And I was like, I've been kind of holding back on saying that, but I felt that way for a long time too. And then we've kind of talked about that since then, and like how, hey, I'm not trying to, rush things. I feel how I feel, and I'm celebrating where I am in life.
That's so sweet. I'm going to read you another meme.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's from the same collection, but my cousin posted it, and it's so good. It says, "You still haven't met all of the people who are going to love you."
That is so accurate. It really
Isn't that
is.
sweet? Even if it's not in a romantic way, like there are going to be more people out there who have love for you. Like, it just makes me feel so warm.
It's so warm. It's it's so reassuring, but also, it kind of fits in with what we've been saying, and that like, I don't know. I feel like my friendships, to be honest, are my primary relationships. That's why
Interesting.
I kind of consider myself solo poly more than like poly or E&M or whatever. Like don't get me wrong, my romantic relationships are very important to me. Like I really
and real. Yeah.
They're right now. I mean, they've become 2 of like the real centerpieces of my life. But my ride or dies, my oldest friends, those are the ones I always come back to in times of trouble. Those are the ones who I support no matter what. And I feel like those are my primaries, right? So there's endless room for all kinds of folks in our lives. It's just about making time and like living in like a really authentic way with it,
Totally. I'm obsessed with this journey.
That's so great.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. And honestly, over the years, it's been very inspirational to see how you and Ben have like come together and like continue to work it out and like support each other and like go on this weird journey this last year and a half of like Oregon and Jersey and New York and all these places. Like that takes a lot out of a relationship.
It was tough.
And it takes a lot to keep it going and to like be on the same page when things are changing so much around you and within yourselves, I'm sure. So it's been like very cool to see, like it's I have some, relationship goals type stuff with y'all. Like it's very, very nice.
Oh, that's cute. I mean, we definitely are not perfect by any means. We break up sometimes. We don't tell anybody about it.
Sure.
We have relationship check-ins, but we haven't called them that. And I kind of would like to bring that in now. Just because I think it is like
it's a good way to communicate.
It's a good way to communicate, especially with somebody like me and probably like you, where we keep things like locked and fester on them, and then really only explode like when it's time.
And when is it time? 2 a.m. on Thursday.
Right before he has to shoot a pilot. I always choose like my moments. And they're always so bad. But like,
this makes you not do that.
It's like therapy, but without a therapist. Like it's like a scheduled time to chat and like reevaluate and talk about like, this has been bothering me, or like, this has been working well for me. And like,
that's the
I'm going to take a little tip from you.
That's the thing. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. I come with like a lot of the positive things that are happening. Hey, I really like how you planned that trip for us to the Catskills. That made me feel really seen and valued and loved. And like, that was dope. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I bring to a check-in. In addition to like, if anything negative comes up, I'll bring it up too. But honestly, there really hasn't been anything. I picked 2 very reasonable people. And that I've noticed about myself is the most important thing I need in a partner. Be reasonable. I do not want someone who will yell at me in the middle of a Red Lobster.
Yeah.
That's my number one thing. Like, people are like, humor, beauty. No. Person who will not yell at me at Red Lobster. Number 1.
Wait, have you seen that sketch? It's so old. It's from SNL, and it was a parody of Project Runway. And the Tim Gunn character was like, Andre, you can't just start a fight at Red Lobster.
Yeah, of course I've seen it. Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, is this just parallel thinking or okay? Yeah, one of the best sketches, you guys. Maybe a little transphobic now, actually, that I'm thinking about it, because Christian Siriano used to call things.
Well, I think,
but we learn and we grow.
We learn and we grow. I think we have to let people evolve. You know, we can't just have people be in the penalty box forever. I think we have to be like, hey, it was a different time, and hopefully they would make a different decision now. A lot of people have kind of come out and said, hey, yeah, a lot of my old comedy was kind of ugh, and now I learn. I know things, and I'm better, and I love that. I love people being able to like have the freedom to do that.
We've had conversations, like, you know me, like I like shut people out. Like I like see a sign or something that I don't like, and I'm like dead or whatever. And there was one day that I was like so mad at you, and I was like, I fucking hate Khalid now. Oh, no. But then I just like brought up the issue to you, and you were like, oh, I completely understand.
Totally.
And I was like, oh, he's my best friend again.
Totally. And that is such like a marker of a mature, evolved person.
Yeah.
I value flexibility and like emotional and mental elasticity in people the older I get, because people who are just rigid and like closed-minded and like won't admit they're wrong, the worst. Thumbs down. 0 stars.
No fun.
Yeah.
Not even good conversationalists, really. They're just regurgitating the same stuff over and over again. And like, I like to talk about deep shit. I want to hear new ideas.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Elasticity.
Well,
this has been so fun.
Oh my God. This is one of the best talks.
I don't think I have any other questions.
One of the best chats I've had in a fortnight. I love it.
You're simply the best. I can't wait to see you in person. We did have plans for dinner to talk TikTok show. And then it's the week that I was sick as fuck.
Let's get it going again. Maybe next week. I'm around.
We're getting our lives back together. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Khalid, where can everybody find you online, your socials?
Yes. Hit me up at Khalid Says. That's KHALIDSAYS on Instagram. And also come to my show, Big Break Stand Up. That's at Big Break Stand Up on Instagram. It's a great show. I run it with Gabe Pacheco. Remy's done shows with us before. During the pandemic, we had a really fun time in the backyard, and it's a really great time. We legitimately have built a super strong show. It's every second and fourth Saturday at the Nest in Prospect Leverage Gardens. Tickets are right there on the Instagram in the link. It's so easy. Why not just come? It's the best.
Yeah, I saw your post from it this week, and I almost got jealous and like FOMO-ish. And then I was just like, no, this is a fab show. I'm so happy for him.
Hell yeah. And of course, we're going to have you on the show. I mean, you're a part of our
exactly.
You're part of our gang.
What am I thinking?
You're part of our gang.
Exactly.
Part of our team, part of our squad. It's the best.
Gang. Khalid, I have to ask you this question after a sexual experience, which this has been so sexual, so romantic, so wonderful. I'm so excited. Did you finish?
Oh, I finished so much.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And coming back, which you did to one of your ladies.
Hey, yo. We're coming all over the place. We're coming everywhere. And how come?
We're coming everywhere. So good to see you. You guys, thank you for being here. And we'll see you next time on How Come. Goodbye.
Bye.
Awesome.
It's not you, it's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help, 'cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna just